Now, what if the biggest reason you feel tired during the day has nothing to do with how many hours you sleep? Most people think sleep is simply about duration. They assume that if they get 7 or 8 hours in bed, their energy, focus, metabolism, and mood should automatically improve. But here's what's really going on inside your body. Sleep quality is controlled by timing, light exposure, hormones, body temperature, and nervous system regulation far more than most people realize. And this is why so many people wake up exhausted even after a full night of sleep. Your brain runs on an internal biological clock called the circadian rhythm. Think of it like the conductor of an orchestra. When that conductor is synchronized properly, your hormones, metabolism, digestion, focus, immune system, and energy all work together in harmony. But when the timing becomes disrupted through late-night screens, inconsistent sleep schedules, poor light exposure, stress, caffeine misuse, or irregular eating, your entire physiology becomes misaligned. The result? You feel wired at night but tired in the morning. You crave sugar and caffeine just to function. Your focus drops. Your mood becomes unstable. Fat loss becomes harder. And over time, your risk for metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance, depression, and accelerated aging begins to rise. What the research shows is that sleep is not passive recovery. Sleep is active biological repair. During deep sleep, your brain clears metabolic waste. Growth hormone increases. Dopamine systems reset. Cortisol becomes regulated. Your nervous system recalibrates itself. And during REM sleep, your brain processes emotional stress and consolidates learning. In other words, sleep determines the quality of your waking life. Now, here's the encouraging part. Many of the most powerful sleep tools are completely free. They don't require expensive supplements, extreme routines, or complicated biohacking. Simple behaviors like morning sunlight, proper caffeine timing, evening light control, temperature management, and nervous system regulation can dramatically improve both sleep quality and daytime alertness. And this is exactly what neuroscience research from experts like Andrew Huberman and circadian biology researchers has been highlighting over the past several years. In this video, I'm going to break down the essential science of mastering your sleep and becoming naturally more alert during the day, using practical, evidence-based protocols you can start implementing immediately. We'll cover how light controls your hormones, why your morning routine determines your nighttime sleep, how caffeine can either help or sabotage your energy, why temperature matters more than you think, and how to train your nervous system to recover more efficiently. Because once you understand the biology behind sleep, you stop fighting your body and start working with it. One of the most powerful tools for improving sleep actually starts in the morning, within the first hour after you wake up. And it's something most people completely overlook: morning sunlight exposure. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Deep in the brain is a small structure called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, essentially your body's master clock. Its job is to regulate sleep, hormones, energy, focus, body temperature, and metabolism throughout the day. But this clock depends on one major signal to stay synchronized: light, especially natural sunlight early in the morning. Think of your circadian rhythm like a line of dominoes. Morning sunlight pushes the first domino, triggering a chain reaction of biological events across the entire day. Cortisol rises naturally to increase alertness. Dopamine increases to support focus and motivation. Body temperature rises to boost energy and metabolism. Then later at night, melatonin begins rising to prepare the body for sleep. This is why good sleep actually begins in the morning, not at bedtime. One of the biggest mistakes people make is relying only on supplements, melatonin, or sleep aids while ignoring the most powerful circadian signal available for free: sunlight. Research shows that morning outdoor light exposure improves sleep quality, mood, focus, and circadian alignment. It also helps the brain release melatonin more effectively at night. And importantly, indoor light is not enough. Even bright indoor lighting is far weaker than natural outdoor sunlight. Your brain can tell the difference. This is why going outside within 30 to 60 minutes after waking can dramatically improve both daytime alertness and nighttime sleep. A good target is 5 to 10 minutes on sunny days, 15 to 20 minutes on cloudy days, 20 to 30 minutes during winter or overcast weather. You do not need to stare at the sun. Simply allowing natural light into your eyes safely is enough to activate these circadian systems. Morning sunlight also increases healthy cortisol at the correct time of day. And cortisol itself is not bad. Healthy morning cortisol is essential for energy, focus, reaction time, and mental clarity. At the same time, sunlight supports dopamine regulation, which affects motivation, mood, and attention. So when people say they don't feel awake until several coffees later, the problem is often circadian misalignment and lack of proper light exposure. And here's something many people don't realize. Morning light sets a biological countdown timer for nighttime melatonin release. If you miss strong light exposure early in the day, your brain often delays the evening sleep signal. This is one reason people unintentionally become night owls. They stay indoors all morning and afternoon, then expose themselves to bright screens late at night. From a biological perspective, the brain becomes confused about what time it actually is. The result? Poor sleep quality, brain fog, low energy, mood instability, increased cravings, reduced focus. So here's a simple morning protocol you can start immediately. Wake up at roughly the same time daily. Get outside within the first hour after waking. Expose your eyes to natural sunlight for 10 to 15 minutes. Walk if possible to amplify wakefulness signals. Avoid checking your phone immediately after waking. That last point matters more than people realize. Because when your first stimulus is stress, notifications, emails, and artificial blue light, your nervous system enters a reactive state before your biology has naturally stabilized. Over time, this disrupts energy and sleep rhythm significantly. And while artificial light boxes can help in low sunlight environments, natural sunlight is still superior because it provides the full spectrum and intensity your circadian system evolved to respond to. Nature still outperforms technology here. And if this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post science-based content regularly to help people improve sleep, energy, metabolism, and long-term health naturally. Now let's talk about the most misunderstood stimulant on the planet, caffeine. Most people use caffeine reactively. They wake up tired, immediately grab coffee, push through the afternoon crash, then wonder why they feel exhausted at night but unable to sleep deeply. But here's what's really going on inside your body. Caffeine does not actually give you energy. It blocks your perception of tiredness. And understanding this changes everything. Your brain naturally builds up a chemical throughout the day called adenosine. Think of adenosine like a biological sleep pressure molecule. The longer you stay awake, the more adenosine accumulates in the brain. This increasing pressure is what gradually makes you feel sleepy at night. Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine adenosine as snow slowly piling up on a road throughout the day. The more snow accumulates, the harder it becomes to drive efficiently. Your brain interprets that buildup as fatigue. Caffeine acts like a temporary snow cover. It doesn't remove the snow. It simply hides it for a while. Caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, so your brain temporarily cannot detect how tired it actually is. This is why caffeine can improve alertness, reaction time, mood, and focus in the short term. But eventually, caffeine wears off, and when it does, all the adenosine that continued building underneath suddenly becomes noticeable again. This is the afternoon crash. It's not random. It's biology. When you wake up naturally, your body already produces a healthy cortisol pulse designed to increase alertness. Again, cortisol itself is not bad when released at the correct time. Morning cortisol is part of healthy circadian biology. If you immediately combine large amounts of caffeine with this natural cortisol spike, you often create sharper energy peaks followed by larger crashes later in the day. But there's another reason delaying caffeine helps. Remember adenosine buildup? Some adenosine remains in the brain when you first wake up. If you immediately block it with caffeine, that leftover adenosine tends to rebound later, often causing stronger afternoon sleepiness. Delaying caffeine gives your body time to naturally clear some of that residual adenosine first. The result? More stable energy, fewer crashes, better alertness throughout the day, and often better sleep at night. Now, this doesn't mean caffeine is bad. Used strategically, caffeine can absolutely enhance performance, focus, training, and productivity. The problem is chronic dependence. When people constantly override fatigue signals instead of fixing the underlying causes, poor sleep timing, stress overload, circadian disruption, blood sugar instability, the nervous system gradually becomes dysregulated. And over time, the brain compensates. You need more caffeine just to feel normal. That's not enhanced energy. That's borrowed energy. Now let's connect this to metabolism and fat loss because this is where things become extremely important. Poor sleep combined with excessive caffeine creates a vicious cycle. Sleep deprivation increases cortisol and insulin resistance. This increases cravings for sugar and processed foods. People then consume more caffeine to compensate for fatigue. More caffeine later in the day worsens sleep quality. Then the cycle repeats. This is one reason chronic fatigue and stubborn weight gain often appear together. The root problem is frequently circadian dysfunction and nervous system exhaustion, not simply lack of willpower. So here's a practical caffeine protocol you can use immediately. První, wait 90 to 120 minutes after waking before caffeine if possible. Druhý, stop caffeine intake at least 8 to 10 hours before bedtime. Třetí, use caffeine strategically, not emotionally. Čtvrtý, avoid caffeine as a substitute for sleep deprivation. Pátý, hydrate early in the day before reaching for coffee. Šestý, pair caffeine with movement or focused work blocks for better dopamine utilization. And another important point, if you constantly need caffeine just to function normally, that is feedback from your biology. Your body is telling you something. Usually that your sleep timing, stress levels, light exposure, recovery, or metabolic health needs attention. The goal is not to become dependent on stimulation. The goal is to create genuine cellular energy because real energy feels calm, stable, focused, and sustainable, not anxious, wired, and exhausted underneath. And if this is helping you rethink how sleep and alertness actually work, consider subscribing. Every week, I break down the physiology behind energy, metabolism, hormones, and recovery into practical tools you can actually apply in daily life. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest invisible disruptors of sleep in the modern world: artificial light at night, and specifically the relationship between light, melatonin, and your brain's ability to enter deep restorative sleep. Because here's what's really going on inside your body. Today, many people spend their days indoors under dim artificial lighting, then expose themselves to extremely bright screens, televisions, LED lighting, and phones late into the night. Biologically, this creates confusion. Your brain interprets bright nighttime light as a signal that it is still daytime. And one of the first systems affected is melatonin production. Now, melatonin is often misunderstood. People think melatonin is simply a sleep chemical, but melatonin is actually more like a timing signal. It tells the brain and body that nighttime has arrived and prepares multiple physiological systems for sleep and recovery. Melatonin helps coordinate sleep timing, body temperature reduction, hormonal repair cycles, antioxidant activity in the brain, immune regulation, cellular recovery processes. In other words, melatonin is deeply connected to longevity and recovery, not just falling asleep. What the research shows is that exposure to bright light at night, especially blue-enriched light from screens and LEDs, can significantly suppress melatonin production and delay circadian timing. Now, let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain has a dimmer switch for sleep. As evening approaches, darkness slowly lowers the lights in your nervous system. Melatonin rises gradually. Body temperature decreases. Alertness drops naturally. The brain prepares for restoration. But when you suddenly expose yourself to bright screens late at night, it's like someone instantly turns the lights back on inside the brain. The nervous system shifts toward wakefulness again. And this affects much more than sleep duration. It impacts sleep depth. Many people technically sleep long enough, but their sleep architecture becomes fragmented. They spend less time in deep sleep and REM sleep, the stages most critical for physical repair, emotional regulation, memory consolidation, and metabolic recovery. This is why people often say, "I slept 8 hours but still feel exhausted." The issue is not always quantity, it's quality. Now here's where things become even more important. Late night light exposure also affects dopamine and cortisol regulation. Bright light at inappropriate times can delay the evening drop in cortisol that should naturally occur before sleep. The result? You feel tired physically but mentally alert. Your body wants sleep, but your brain still thinks it's daytime. This is one reason so many people experience tired but wired insomnia. Now let's connect this to metabolism and fat loss. Poor nighttime sleep quality impairs insulin sensitivity the following day. Research consistently shows that even partial sleep restriction can worsen glucose regulation and increase hunger hormones like ghrelin while reducing satiety hormones like leptin. In practical terms, poor sleep makes cravings stronger, especially for high-calorie processed foods. This is not simply lack of discipline. Sleep-deprived brains literally seek fast energy sources. And because the prefrontal cortex becomes less effective under sleep deprivation, impulse control weakens while reward-seeking increases. So if someone is trying to lose weight while consistently sleeping poorly, they are often fighting against their own neurobiology. This is why protecting nighttime sleep is one of the most powerful metabolic tools available. Now, the encouraging part is that small environmental changes can produce major improvements. Here's a practical evening light protocol. První, dim household lights 1 to 2 hours before bed. Druhý, reduce overhead LED exposure at night whenever possible. Třetí, use lamps or warmer lower lighting in the evening. Čtvrtý, minimize bright phone exposure close to bedtime. Pátý, if using screens, lower brightness and activate night shift modes. Šestý, keep the bedroom as dark as possible during sleep, and darkness truly matters. Even small amounts of light during sleep can affect circadian signaling in sensitive individuals. Blackout curtains can help. Covering bright LEDs in the room can help. Keeping the environment cool and dark sends a strong biological signal for recovery. Now, an important clarification: you do not need perfection. This is where many people become overly obsessive with biohacking. The goal is consistency, not anxiety. Occasional late nights will not destroy your health. The problem is chronic circadian disruption repeated daily over years. What matters most is the overall pattern your nervous system experiences consistently. Bright days, dim evenings. Regular timing, predictable recovery. This is what human biology evolved around. And one more thing many people overlook: your evening environment also trains your nervous system emotionally. If your final hours before bed are filled with stressful news, work emails, social media overstimulation, arguments, or constant dopamine spikes, your brain enters sleep in a hyper-aroused state. Sleep quality suffers even if you technically fall asleep. So one of the most powerful evening tools is creating psychological darkness alongside physical darkness. Less stimulation, less urgency, less input, more calm, more parasympathetic nervous system activity, more recovery. Because deep sleep is not something you force. It's something your biology allows when the conditions are correct. And if this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post evidence-based content like this regularly to help people optimize sleep, metabolism, focus, and long-term health naturally. Temperature is one of the most overlooked factors affecting sleep and daytime energy. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your circadian rhythm is not just controlled by light and hormones, it also follows a temperature cycle. During the day, your core body temperature rises to support alertness, focus, and metabolism. But at night, your body needs to cool down to trigger deep sleep. Think of your brain like a high-performance computer. During the day, it runs hot, but before repair and recovery can happen, it needs to cool down properly. That drop in body temperature is part of the brain's natural sleep signal. This is why sleeping in an overly warm room often leads to poor sleep quality, more wake-ups, and feeling unrested in the morning. Research shows that cooler sleeping environments help people fall asleep faster and improve deep sleep quality. Interestingly, a warm shower before bed can actually help sleep. After leaving the warm water, your body cools rapidly, which enhances the natural cooling process that prepares the brain for sleep. Temperature also affects daytime alertness. Another major sleep disruptor is alcohol. Many people think alcohol helps sleep because it causes sedation. But sedation is not restorative sleep. Alcohol disrupts REM sleep, interferes with temperature regulation, and increases nighttime awakenings. This is why people often wake up dehydrated, overheated, and mentally foggy after drinking. Here's a simple nighttime temperature protocol. Keep the bedroom cool and dark. Avoid heavy meals late at night. Limit alcohol before sleep. Finish intense workouts earlier in the evening. Consider a warm shower 1 to 2 hours before bed. And most importantly, keep a consistent sleep schedule. Your nervous system thrives on predictable rhythms. Predictable light, predictable darkness, predictable sleep, predictable recovery. Because when your biological rhythms become aligned, you stop forcing energy and start generating it naturally. Now let's talk about the hidden factor behind a massive percentage of sleep problems today. Stress physiology. Because for many people, the issue is not that the body cannot sleep. The issue is that the nervous system does not feel safe enough to fully let go. And this is where understanding cortisol, adrenaline, and the autonomic nervous system becomes incredibly important. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your nervous system has two primary modes: the sympathetic nervous system, often called the fight or flight system, and the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, and recover system. Both are necessary. During the day, healthy sympathetic activation helps you focus, move, perform, solve problems, and respond to challenges. But at night, the body must gradually shift toward parasympathetic dominance for deep restorative sleep to occur. The problem is that modern life keeps many people stuck in chronic low-grade sympathetic activation almost all the time. Constant notifications, work pressure, financial stress, social media overstimulation, late-night screen exposure, irregular schedules, emotional rumination, excess caffeine, information overload. From a biological perspective, the brain interprets these as signals of uncertainty and threat. And when the brain perceives threat, it prioritizes vigilance over recovery. This is why so many people say, "My body feels tired, but my brain won't shut off." Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your nervous system like a security system in a building. If the alarm system detects possible danger, it keeps the lights on, increases surveillance, and remains alert. Your brain behaves similarly. If stress hormones remain elevated late into the evening, the brain delays deeper sleep because biologically it assumes the environment may not be fully safe. This is not weakness. It's ancient survival wiring. Now, cortisol plays a major role here. Some people experience elevated evening cortisol, meaning the nervous system remains activated at the exact time it should be slowing down. The result? Racing thoughts, night awakenings, shallow sleep, anxiety before bed, early morning waking around 3 or 4 a.m., and reduced recovery even after sufficient hours in bed. What the research shows is that chronic stress and hyperarousal are strongly associated with insomnia and reduced sleep quality. Elevated sympathetic nervous system activity can impair both deep sleep and REM sleep. Now here's something extremely important. Many people try to force sleep, but sleep is not an active performance task. You cannot bully your nervous system into recovery. You create conditions that allow recovery to emerge naturally. And one of the most effective ways to do this is by deliberately activating the parasympathetic nervous system. This is where behavioral tools become incredibly powerful. One of the simplest evidence-based tools is physiological sigh breathing. This involves one deep inhale through the nose, followed by a second shorter inhale, then a long, slow exhale through the mouth. This breathing pattern helps offload carbon dioxide efficiently and rapidly reduces physiological stress levels. Even a few repetitions can calm the nervous system noticeably. Another powerful tool is non-sleep deep rest, sometimes called NSDR or Yoga Nidra. These are guided protocols designed to shift the brain into deeply restorative parasympathetic states without fully sleeping. Research suggests these practices can improve stress regulation, dopamine recovery, and mental restoration. Now, this matters enormously for daytime alertness too, because chronic stress drains energy even when you are technically resting. Why? Because hypervigilance consumes metabolic resources. The brain burns tremendous energy monitoring threat, uncertainty, and emotional overload. This is why mentally stressed individuals often feel physically exhausted. The nervous system never fully powers down. Now let's connect this to metabolism and body composition. Chronic stress and poor sleep increase cravings, especially for highly palatable foods rich in sugar and processed carbohydrates. Why? Because the stressed brain seeks fast, efficient energy sources. At the same time, elevated cortisol can worsen insulin resistance and promote abdominal fat storage over time. So when people say, "I'm eating less but still gaining weight," or "I feel exhausted but wired," very often the root issue involves nervous system dysregulation, not simply calories alone. This is why recovery must become intentional. Here's a practical evening nervous system downshift protocol. První, reduce intense mental stimulation 1 to 2 hours before bed. Druhý, keep lights dim in the evening. Třetí, practice slow breathing or physiological sighs. Čtvrtý, avoid emotionally activating content before sleep. Pátý, try NSDR or guided relaxation if your mind races at night. Šestý, keep a consistent sleep and wake schedule. Šesté, get morning sunlight daily to stabilize cortisol timing. And here's one more important insight. Many people treat rest like laziness, but biologically recovery is productive. Deep sleep is when growth hormone rises, when the brain clears waste products, when emotional circuits recalibrate, when memory consolidates, when immune repair accelerates, when metabolic systems reset. Recovery is not the absence of performance. Recovery is what makes high performance possible. Now let's bring all of this together. Because once you understand sleep physiology, you realize something extremely important. Sleep is not isolated from the rest of your health. Sleep affects everything. Your metabolism, your hormones, your focus, your emotional stability, your immune system, your appetite, your aging process, even your motivation and decision-making. And this is why mastering sleep is one of the highest return investments you can make for long-term health and performance. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every night, your brain and body enter a coordinated biological repair state. During deep sleep, growth hormone increases significantly. This supports tissue repair, muscle recovery, cellular maintenance, and metabolic regulation. At the same time, the brain activates a waste clearance system often called the glymphatic system. Think of it like a nighttime cleaning crew for the brain. Metabolic waste products that accumulate during wakefulness are cleared more efficiently during sleep. This matters enormously for long-term brain health and cognitive performance. Meanwhile, REM sleep helps regulate emotional processing, memory consolidation, creativity, and learning integration. In other words, sleep is not downtime. Sleep is active optimization. And when sleep quality becomes chronically disrupted, the effects spread across nearly every system in the body. Now let's focus specifically on metabolism because this is where people often underestimate sleep dramatically. Even one night of poor sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity, meaning your body becomes less efficient at managing blood sugar. This leads to larger glucose fluctuations, increased cravings, and reduced energy stability. This is why sleep-deprived individuals often crave sugary snacks, processed carbohydrates, and fast dopamine reward foods. Again, this is not simply a willpower issue. It is physiology. Now combine that with fatigue-driven reductions in movement, poorer decision-making, higher stress hormones, and increased caffeine reliance. And you create the perfect environment for metabolic dysfunction over time. This is why someone can exercise consistently, yet still struggle with energy, fat loss, mood, or recovery if sleep remains chronically compromised. The body cannot fully heal in a biologically chaotic environment. Now let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to renovate a building while people are constantly walking through it, turning lights on and off, interrupting workers, and removing tools. That's what poor sleep does to recovery systems. The repair process never fully completes. But when sleep becomes consistent and restorative, something remarkable happens. Energy becomes more stable. Mood improves. Cravings decrease. Mental clarity sharpens. Training recovery improves. Hormones regulate more efficiently. and daytime alertness begins feeling natural instead of forced. This is why people often describe high-quality sleep as life-changing, because it fundamentally changes the state of the nervous system. Now, here's the encouraging part. You do not need perfect sleep to experience major benefits. Small, consistent improvements compound dramatically over time. Morning sunlight, consistent wake times, smarter caffeine timing, dim evenings, cool sleeping environments, stress regulation, reduced nighttime stimulation. Most people fail because they search for extreme solutions while ignoring foundational rhythms. But your nervous system responds best to regularity, regular light exposure, regular meal timing, regular sleep timing, regular recovery. Your biology thrives on rhythm. So here's a simple challenge for you. Don't try to change everything at once. Pick one protocol from this video and apply it consistently for the next 7 days. Maybe it's getting sunlight within an hour of waking. Maybe it's stopping caffeine earlier. Maybe it's dimming lights at night. Maybe it's improving your evening stress routine. Just start with one, then pay attention. Track your energy. Track your focus. Track your cravings. Track your mood. Because when you begin aligning your behavior with your biology, your body usually responds surprisingly quickly. And over time, those small changes become powerful shifts in health, performance, and longevity. If this video added value, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I create evidence-based content designed to help people optimize sleep, metabolism, hormones, focus, and long-term health naturally using practical science you can actually apply in real life. And remember, better sleep is not just about feeling rested tomorrow. It's about building a healthier brain, body, and nervous system for the next several decades of your life.